property owner and landlord, you have the right to make the final decision on who is going to stay in your particular property unless they outright pass every last one of the rental selection criteria. In that particular case, there is no foreseen reasons of why we would not approve that particular applicant, and that's the reason why they get an automatic approval. Everyone else, you put your final stamp of approval on them, or you can decline them as well, and then we move forward in that direction. Our goal is just to make sure you have as much information as possible in order to make a qualified decision regarding your property. After you have an approval, of course, we handle all of the paperwork, documentation for you. We draft the lease agreement. We make sure we secure the lease initiation funds and all of that on your behalf. So again, another part of the process that becomes stress-free for you. In addition to the approval, we like to set up what is called a move-in orientation. And with the move-in orientation, we find this to be an extremely important part of your new tenant's process and introduction into your particular rental property. We know that with moving, that a lot of times details are missed. Even though they're sent the lease agreement and all of the paperwork to sign, sometimes there's so much going on around the moving process that they simply just don't read all the information. When we schedule the move-in orientation, that gives us anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the new tenant, to really sit down with your new tenant and go over what our expectations are for them renting the property with us. This goes over payment details, what happens if their rent is late in the fees, how do they process maintenance requests and send that information over to our office, what is the best method for communication. We go over all those details with them so they're really set up and started on the right foot. We also explain our quarterly property condition reports and how we'll need access to the property every quarter in order to go in and take photo documentation. From their perspective, we truly do want to make sure that we're protecting their security deposit. So going into the property doesn't necessarily seem like a burden to your new tenant. It actually seems like it is a help to them. If they're doing something at the property where it may cause additional damage in the future, they can find out that information early and stop. So they're able to retain as much of their security deposit as possible. And of course, as a landlord, we're completing these quarterly property condition reports in order to protect your investment. So during that time, at the move-in orientation, we make sure that they have all the information they need to be set up, and we also take photo documentation of the property prior to your tenant gaining access. Now, this is very important, of course, for the processing of the security deposit. With the security deposit, you're able to withhold funds as long as you're able to prove that it was damage the tenant actually caused or created that is above and beyond normal wear and tear. So our responsibility at the move-in orientation is to make sure that we have the proper documentation on file so we know exactly what the condition was before the tenant occupied the property.